What's up, all you lazy, entitled, basement-dwelling millennials, bootstrapping boomers, apathetic Xers, and goddamn Gen Z kids today? We're going to talk about don't you dare use your own property without asking the commission's permission.
Not in my backyard. You know it.
NIMBY. So for those who follow me, you have probably been included on the neighbor drama saga I've been going through. I have a house in 40 acres a little bit south of where I live that I rent out to an African-American gentleman.
You dirty landlord.
I know, I'm horrible.
Black Rock 2.0, here we come.
I was honestly like, so when I started telling this story, I'm like, shit, I'm gonna tell people that I have a house I rent out, and they're all gonna hate me because that's the theme. But surprisingly, everybody has been real supportive because I have one house. I owned it before. I lived there for 10 years. I didn't want to sell it when we bought our new house because the bank technically owns our new house at the moment, and I don't like the idea that the bank can make me homeless. So I own the other one outright. They can't take that one from me.
Such privilege.
I know, right? But anyway, it's got space. I was looking to rent. I figured a horse person would probably rent it. That's kind of what made sense. That's what I did with
that
it.
Makes sense.
I was asking a lot of money for what the house is, but I was like, if you have a couple, 3 horses there, you're getting it you're basically paying for your horse's board, and you get to live there for free.
Yeah, those stabling boarding fees. You were telling me about that. I was like, that's it's insane amount. I understand why it's high, but still, it feels crazy.
Yep. No, it's nuts. But anyway, surprisingly, African American gentleman from the cities has 5 dogs. He does a little bit of showing and breeding and wanted to get out of the cities. Yeah, get out of the cities, have space for his dogs, not be bothered by people. And I was like, cool. Yeah, I don't care. I had dogs. He took the house as is, so I didn't have to, paint and do all the renovations because he's like, well, I got dogs. They're probably going to make a mess anyway. I'd rather just take it as is. I was like, awesome. Perfect. So everything, he's been a great renter. Haven't had any problems. Been there nearly a year. But my old neighbor, who I used to be really close to, apparently isn't super fan of living next to a brown guy. And
isn't that why you move out to the sticks?
Yeah.
No, not really.
Yeah, I mean that's why some of these people do for sure. Man, some of the dog whistles that you hear are bad.
Yeah, I saw some of those text messages. That was I don't know. It's weird to think that people are still like that use those just specific verbiage. That's
property values.
Well, right. I mean, those whatever, that's, you call that the Southern strategy, whatever you want to call it, but that specifically call people garbage and not their specific things they're doing as garbage, or treating your house like garbage,
right,
or treating their neighbors like they're non-people. Just
they are garbage,
there. Right?
And don't you dare bring those people near me, and I won't live next to people like that for any length of time. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's an advertisement for Levittown. All of the, I can't believe it. That's crazy to me that we're living in the world of 2023 and people are still that overt. Not to say that they should be racist of any kind,
right?
But
you'd hope that they'd be quieter about it at least at this point.
Right. Exactly.
But anyway, so been there a year. I've asked the neighbors, including the one who's kind of led this crusade against him, repeatedly, has there been any problems? Has the dogs been on your property? Have they been a nuisance? Has there been any issues? And assured me absolutely not. And then one day, get a letter in the mail from the county saying that we were in violation of the kennel ordinance, and if you have 2 or more dogs or cats, 3 or more, if you have more than 2 dogs or cats, you have to get a kennel permit, which, let me remind you, this is on 40 acres, 10 miles outside of town.
So you're telling me if you have 3 dogs, but you have 3 kids, the 3 dogs is the problem.
Yes.
Not the fact that you have 3 dogs or 3 cats.
Yeah.
The cat people love cats.
Oh, I know.
I love cats too. I don't know that I'd have 3, and my wife wants a 3rd dog living in the cities, and I'm like, I don't think we should. But that that wouldn't be that crazy for us
No.
to get another dog.
No,
That's an ordinance.
exactly. That is an ordinance. And yeah, my uncles who just moved out of Minneapolis, but at their house in Minneapolis, they had 3 dogs at one point. They're like, and they had to get they have an ordinance about that too, but they said it was a $20 filing fee, and that was it.
Yeah.
$20 filing fee. Here's your kennel
I
permit.
guess.
Like it's like, okay, whatever. I understand having maybe some sort of restrictions on, but
Yeah.
there's other law. We'll get into that later.
Sure.
Anyway, point is that my neighbor claims she's not the one who called me in, even though she sent me a bunch of very racially charged text messages about the neighbor, and she's the only one who lives even remotely close enough to know anything or have an opinion.
Yeah.
'Cause you've been to that house.
You don't have many neighbors, and the neighbor you do have is you can't even really see the house.
No,
Either house is from the road.
No.
So
Because you've been to that house,
Oh,
you've been
yeah.
to that property, you know how like isolated it is.
yeah. I mean, we've had parties there that are
Oh, yeah.
probably much more of a nuisance.
And that's the point. Is I was a much more disruptive neighbor than my
Right.
tenant has ever been. He's quiet. He keeps to himself. He's really respectful about everything. I'm like, I was over here. I had loud parties. I've got loud vehicles. I have dogs. I have guns. You know,
Horses.
horses. Yeah, my horses got out all the fucking time. Like I was definitely much more of a nuisance neighbor than my tenant has ever been, and it was never a problem. Nobody ever called the county on me. We've never had any issues. Then the brown guy moves in, and suddenly all hell breaks loose. But I'm telling you that story because all of this now has gone to a zoning ordinance. He's had to pay $1,000 filing fee. We've had to go to a township board meeting where people can show up and complain and harass them in person about, you know, what they're doing, and now a county one, and we have to go through another county one coming up on December 7th. And it's just crazy. And it's crazy because these types of things can be leveraged against, you know, the undesirables.
Right. In a very overt way, and not in a way that's on the face of it violent.
Right, exactly.
There's not a mob of people like showing up to that. To
Yeah,
your
they're
house.
not burning a cross on the front yard, but
But they are certainly making it difficult and less than desirable to be there, which obviously appears to be the point.
Exactly. And then on top of that, all of this stuff then becomes public record. So it's like if you have, you know, dogs, and his dogs are show dogs, and he has a couple litters a year, and these are pretty high value animals, right?
Yeah, everybody knows somebody or like knows a person who knows a person who like bred dogs
Right.
or like has bought a dog through a dog breeder that's not like, you know, they don't not everybody gets their dog through a
Right.
shelter.
And that's a whole nother topic, you know, and people have strong feelings on that both ways, and we're not getting into that one right now. This is just a point of example and why we decided to talk about this week is because that's what we're dealing with. And it could have been any other ordinance. This is just happens to be the one that we're dealing with at the moment.
Yeah.
But, you know, all of this stuff then becomes a matter of public record. So, like, the things that you're doing on your private property when you have to apply for these things allow other people to be nosy and opinionated and make your life more uncomfortable. When, again, he's got some high-value dogs. He probably doesn't want that advertised to everybody. He definitely doesn't want, you know, he wrote the application in a way to try to, you know, go overboard. So hopefully he could get in compliance even if they approved him for less. And the town looked at that as their justification for rallying against, oh, we're not going to have this big commercial county. It's like, that's not what I'm actually trying to do, but this is me trying to work with the county to make sure that I stay in compliance, and it should have been none of your business. And I didn't realize that this was going to be mailed out to half the fucking county.
Right.
But anyway, so these things, you know, still happen, and they are used probably more extensively than any other legislation and ordinances today to create apartheid, to keep, you know, places segregated, and just across across the country. And you know, it's not as overt as redlining was, but
Right.
you change a little bit, and you know, you're just no longer saying the quiet part out loud, but it's still there. So anyway, we have a long history of zoning regulations being used for nefarious purposes.
Oh yeah. Big time.
So redlining, you're familiar with that?
Yeah, of course. Basically, it's the practice of banks using zoning guidelines given to them by the HUD Housing and Urban Development, and there's a couple other government agencies or agencies that set guidelines as to which areas of a city is, in their eyes, desirable or undesirable to give loans out to, based off of potential property values and whatever else they use to determine that value. And prior to 1968, not all that long ago, part of that determination was race demographics.
Absolutely.
Perfectly legal, and essentially those loans were subsidized by the federal government, and federal government actually supported the usage of those demographical guidelines. So,
and then that kind of set the foundation going forward, because then all of a sudden these these neighborhoods that were redlined to be minority neighborhoods didn't get the investments in them that other ones did because they couldn't get the loans. So those became long-term, low-income neighborhoods.
well, yeah, not even that, and now you turn a whole populace into renters instead of owners in a time where the best way that Americans gained generational wealth was through owning their homes.
Absolutely.
So.
And generational wealth is another thing. A lot of people get their first home because it's inherited, or because they have parents who can impart some of that generational wealth from their home ownership, so you can get into your own single-family home.
Give you help with their down payment, whatever.
And zoning makes a lot of places not allowed to do multifamily homes. It's only single-family homes. So people who, because of redlining, because of our racial discrimination in the past that prevented generational wealth from minority and poor communities, means that they can't afford a single-family home, but you could maybe afford half of a duplex or a quadplex or something like that. But multifamily housing is zoned out of many, many, many residential areas, and that's the reason. Because that makes housing more affordable. More affordable means less desirable people, right?
Right.
So I mean, it's still, there's still lots of modern zoning laws that are still used for legal discrimination. We get it with like HOAs and stuff all the time too. I mean, obviously, if you've got to pay thousands of dollars a year to live in a neighborhood because you have to belong to the HOA, that's a barrier to entry to that neighborhood. Another payment that you have to make that not everybody can afford. In my county too, in Chisago, they have ones that they don't explicitly prevent trailer houses, but everything's written to prevent mobile homes or more affordable housing, because like houses have to be 20 feet wide.
Well, and it like building codes, even like you have to be very careful as to like if you buy a plot of land, like where and what you build and how big it has to be. And it's like, well, if you do it too small, it'll decrease the the value of that property and the value of our county or whatever. And it's like, well, how about you just shut the fuck up,
mind your own business,
let me build as many non-trailer house or trailer park, whatever.
If it's a roof over somebody's head that is suitable for people to live somewhere, it should be suitable for them to live pretty much everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And especially because again, my county is very rural. I'm in a very rural area, and they have that. They have that. Manufactured homes are okay, but they have to be more than 20 feet wide. So that means that you can't have a single wide.
Sure.
It has to be on a 48-inch deep foundation. So that means that you still have to dig a basement or a thicket.
You still have to spend $20,000 on digging a foundation.
It has to be a minimum of like 940 square feet.
Sure. Yep.
So it was all things directly designed to prevent a specific type of housing, a specific type of people from moving out there. And again, it's out there.
Right. Yeah. And not even just black people. This is where we go back to a lot of the issues that affect racial divides and racial lines also affect are really
classist lines.
Classist lines. And we're still doing class warfare.
Absolutely.
It just so happens that most of the poor people statistically are minorities.
Well, most minorities are poor people, I would say. I still think there's probably more white people who are poor just because there's so many more white people. But I'd say that
just because there's more white people.
Right.
Yeah.
Minorities tend to be by percentage of demographic more poor.
Right. Yes.
More economically.
No, that's what I meant.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to make sure that we were clear for the people who listen.
And I was on the way up here, I was listening to a couple documentaries. and I'm on YouTube addict, so I've got YouTube. I got my phone where I can't really see the video. I'm not watching the video, but I just got like videos on videos playing on my speaker. And one of the things that was interesting was it was a video comparing Tokyo and Japanese zoning laws to American zoning laws.
Oh.
And around 1968, they also passed a law, but their law wasn't telling people to not be racist anymore. Their law was that they are no longer going to allow localities to determine zoning, and they set basically like a federally mandated like zoning practice across the country. And there's only 12 zones apparently for all Japan, 12 whole zones, and there's like 30 plus in America. So, and there's like almost none of them are single use only zones. Like what we have is the majority of our, like 80% of America is single use only zoning. And what do you know? They have been building more houses than households have been, populating the area since then. And so what do you know? There's plethora of housing, and they do not have the same, housing crisis that we do have in America.
Well, and that's a great point, is that, there's a lot of things we can point to for our housing crisis. Obviously, banks buying up massive amounts of residential housing is a problem.
Suburban areas, for sure.
But also, the way the free market's supposed to work is, well, man, if housing is this expensive, we should be building. And if there's a market for affordable houses, it doesn't matter how fast the big companies buy all that up. We should still be building more to meet that demand.
Yeah.
But zoning laws make that really difficult in a lot of places, because if you can't build starter homes because the zoning laws prevent certain square footage, certain materials being used, certain, et cetera, it makes it harder. And then you've got to get all these expensive permits. I mean, again, $1,000 so you can keep your dogs is not an uncommon example. That might be an uncommon example for that, but those kind of permit fees are not uncommon, and that is, again, barriers to entry to building new housing.
Well, and like you mentioned the free market, this is a classic example where unfettered free market just leads to social problems in that there are no starter homes anymore. Show me a neighborhood in Minnesota around the Twin Cities where they're building a neighborhood, a suburban new suburban neighborhood where single-family homes are being sold for under $300,000.
Yeah, good luck with that. I mean,
$300,000. That's still like that is
money.
Much more affordable than a lot of the houses in suburban, Minneapolis area, but it's still a pretty decent mortgage. Like that's still depending on what your
especially with these interest rates now.
Right,
I mean, you're looking at $2,500 a month on a $300,000 house.
Pretty close.
Easy,
over $2,000 for sure. Which I mean, it's definitely a better deal than renting. Like if it's a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath or whatever.
But then you also need 20% down usually on top of that.
Well, right. Yeah. So I mean, but for starter, there's nobody building starter homes anymore because obviously it costs more to build houses, and if you build a little bit upscale, then you get to charge more. And there's a bigger profit margin. So there's not as big a profit margin in building affordable and starter homes. And what do you know? We don't have that many of them. And because of single zoning laws and NIMBY, we don't have mixed use zoning, residential mixed use. So there's not even like quadplexes and triplexes and many duplexes where people can move to. So that's why naturally housing costs more. And
and again, allowing those would be a better free market solution, because if you're building a starter home versus upper middle class, family home, the cost to the builder isn't that much more. The cost of the land doesn't change for what you're putting the house on. So that stays fixed. You have a little bit more material costs for the extra square footage.
Material and labor, a little bit.
But it's not, you get to charge exponentially more.
Yeah.
But if you were out there putting up duplexes or quadplexes, now those individual units will sell for substantially less than a private home. But those individual units all added up together for the same space will net you a lot more money, right? Because you're selling 4 spaces. So the builder would still be getting more money, and the tenants or the homeowners would be getting living space for less.
Yeah, it's better than a condo. It's right around like a townhome type situation, right?
Exactly. And so in those situations, which I don't even know if if townhomes apply for single use, which I guess it probably depends on the locality too.
Probably. But I mean, you think of all the dilapidated houses, dilapidated lots in Minneapolis alone,
Yep.
and just like, why not build 4 houses there
Yep.
instead of one, when we need more housing? But you can't.
You can't because of zoning laws, and they're really it is exacerbating the problem. It is part of what's gotten us here. And again, a lot of this stuff leads back to they were just trying to keep out the undesirables. They wanted their nice, quiet communities.
Yeah, I hate to like always bring things back to race in some way because like nobody wants to be those people, but
it's baked into our society.
there's so many ways that like literally a lot of the situational problems that affect everybody all started because we wanted to keep a particular race below white people. It's you can't separate the two.
No,
especially
really
when it didn't even happen that long ago.
No,
like the 1968. That's really
yeah.
There's people alive.
Oh my God!
Easily
that were alive during segregation, that were subjected to segregation.
This is insane to say that we're no longer racist. It's like no. If you can still remember, like if you were alive during that time, like clearly we've not passed it.
Right. And if you were alive to experience it, there's also people who were alive who were engaging in it on the racist side too.
Right.
Like
somebody had to perpetuate it.
Exactly. There was people alive back then, alive from back then. They're still alive today that fought for these laws that kept these practices. Right. They're still there. There's a lot of them are still in government today. So to say that they just magically they passed the Civil Rights Act in 1968, and suddenly these people are like, okay, cool guys, I'm not racist anymore. Like that didn't happen.
Right. 60s though,
yeah,
really great time for civil rights. Obviously it was a long time coming, so it's kind of like, yay, like I'm glad we finally got it. But
now we're taking steps back again.
Yeah, I mean, as we do.
Taking some big steps back,
Though I think I want to say that Minneapolis specifically did change some zoning laws in the last couple of years that allowed.
One of the cities of our twin cities, I think it was Minneapolis, but it might have been St. Paul, got rid of a bunch of their exclusionary zoning laws. Minneapolis has the 2040 plan, and this is the elimination of single-family zoning in Minneapolis, a city of 425,000 residents. Minneapolis had recently been pretty wedded to single-family zoning and had set aside 70% of its residential land for single-family homes. By contrast, New York just allocates 15%.
Yeah, I mean, talking like New York City proper, I'm assuming.
I'm assuming so,
because there's a lot of Brooklyn and White Plains and New Jersey that are.
Yeah, well, I guess New Jersey probably wouldn't count as New York zoning. So.
Well, it's the same thing if you're from Minnesota. It's all the same. And I didn't think, like you as a Minnesotan, we're called Minnesota nice, right? Yeah. And like people, I don't see any real, obviously your situation not notwithstanding, but I don't see like blatant racism anywhere else in the state, other than like
my situation. Is withstanding because I lived there for 10 years. I was very close to my next door neighbor who's been leading this crusade against my tenants. I have a good relationship with a lot of the other neighbors. I always try to be a really friendly, helpful neighbor. I always try to be the neighbor that I'd want to have. Yeah, that's kind of my philosophy.
You guys had tried to foster a pretty good relationship.
And I didn't know. I was ignorant to it. You get the rural kind of people that make ignorant comments, but you're like, that's because they don't leave this area very often, and you hear about the riots and the
right,
the BLMs and stuff.
Murder City.
Yeah, all that stuff. So you think, okay, they're a little ignorant, but you don't think it's ingrained hatred.
You just assume it's like a regular Fox News ignorant,
Exactly. She was obsessed with Tucker Carlson. I'm like, there's the problem. But I was like, if a really nice black man moves in next door, which he's been by all accounts very nice,
sure,
you'd think that it'd be like, that real life personal experience would trump. You don't expect them to be truly hateful people. You expect them to be
No, definitely not.
molded by their perception from the media, but not like
Right, when you're face to face with
Right.
somebody, you're forced to like meet your perception versus like what's the reality of seeing this person live their life,
and the fact that this came around and so many of the neighbors, rose up to
rise up, brother.
voice their concerned citizen concerns, it was shocking to me. And talking to my dad, my dad's lived in Pine City his whole life, very rural person. And he's like, it amazed me how open he was to admit this, but he's like, I was so ignorant to this. He's like, I'd never seen it before. If you would have told me before I saw it with my own eyes, I'd have never believed that this was like, that the people around here could be like that this was a real problem that, people still have to deal with, but that's the privilege of being white, surrounded by white people in rural, because even your area is pretty homogenous, I feel like.
No, absolutely. And that I was getting further down my thought is that Minnesota, and Minneapolis specifically, is one of the most, if not the most segregated city in the country.
Which is insane.
Only insane because, I don't know, I've never seen somebody be overtly racist in my lifetime anywhere. And, I grew up in the suburbs-ish and, grew up in a smaller town in southern Minnesota. So, like, there was, like, 5 black people, maybe, like, 10 total in, like, my high school of, like, 1,000 people. So, pretty homogenous in its own right. But I went to college up in the cities and down in St. Paul and basically have spent the last at least decade and a half, around the metro area and never experienced anything as blatant as what you're experiencing way out here. But it surprised me to find out that Minneapolis is so segregated and that we have some of the worst outcomes related to that.
I think a lot of that, too, because of that documentary we watched together, we had what was called racial housing covenants, which was redlining, Jim Crow of the North is what the documentary...
Redlining beta.
Yep, exactly. And this was where homeowners could write in a lease agreement, or not a lease agreement, but a sales agreement saying that...
Into the deed of the home.
Yeah, into the deed of the home that said that this won't be sold to people, the Mongols and...
Right. What were all of them? There
Gypsies, I think, were in there.
There was so many different... It was so...
It was
bad.
It was really bad. But this... that was written in, and it was covert redlining is really what it ended up being. It wasn't government regulated; it was citizen regulated.
No, that
at
was
that point.
all HOA type people, all going above and beyond for their neighborhood.
Which it amazes me the amount of energy people will put into like shit because they hate it. Like I don't have this much energy for the stuff I absolutely love.
Yeah.
Like I just don't. Like where do you find the time?
Like I don't know. They just must not have like their social life is built around like their like 10 houses that are around them and like this really tiny community that doesn't interact with anybody unless it's like directly affecting them or is like directly affecting something that they like ascribe their entire identity to.
So it's frustrating. I think because Minnesota tends to be more progressive, especially in the metro areas, and I think that a lot of this segregation is just it's segregation residue that we haven't cleaned up.
Yeah, I mean, we thought the 1968 Fair Housing Act was just gonna fix it all, and
it
didn't do anything really.
No.
I on the way up here, I was listening to some stuff, and they said that like 98% of FHA loans have been given out to white people in the last 30 years.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah.
That's like the way that people buy a house for their first time without like being wealthy. We bought our first house, our house right now, through with an FHA loan, and to think that 2%, maybe like what single digit percent is being given to like 30% of the population. Like that's insane to think about in 2020.
Right. No, it is absolutely insane. And that's, sometimes the problem with these blanket legislation is like, hey, we solved racism, and then we just kind of like we stuck a Band-Aid on it, forgot
Right,
about it,
yeah,
and
we have
then
made it explicitly illegal, but we didn't like actually check on the people to be like,
Right.
hey, do you guys remember that rule? Like,
Yeah.
you can't do this. And we're just like, yeah, we believe you that you're totally following this rule now.
And then back to racists being really, really creative with their
Well, there's that.
racism
Yeah.
and putting in lots of energy. Like, they're like, we can write it this way so we're not technically violating the law,
Right.
which is what basically all zoning is.
I
at
mean,
this
they've
point.
had, hundreds of years of practice in America doing shit like
This is
that.
true.
So, like,
Very
it's
true.
just like they were, so it probably was like muscle memory for them.
That's a fair point.
They immediately in 1968, they were no longer racist.
Yep.
But they just like their body just was like, yeah, this seems totally normal. I bet this is exactly what happened.
Well, and I think that's something that's worth mentioning too is like, although a lot of zoning laws end up having negative racial consequences and negative classes consequences,
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that it's all written with that intent. Because a lot of times it's like, yeah, I don't want to live next to a junkyard. So we're going to write this into, or yeah, I don't want a great big apartment building going up in my backyard. Like things like that.
Well, so like that's a merit, that line of thinking has merit,
Yep.
except for when you compare that to red-lined neighborhoods being zoned to be directly next to industrial areas and
Yeah.
junkyards.
Yep.
So it's like, on the one hand, you're like, yeah, like that stuff's just like common sense. But when we purposefully do shit
Yep. Oh, and
to
we've
like
done a
do
lot of
the
purposely.
opposite thing, it's like, well, can we really say it's just happenstance at this point anymore?
No. I don't think all of it's happenstance. I'm saying like some of the things, like some HOA regulations or some zoning regulations that are like written today, say,
Yeah, sure.
may not be written with those intents, but still have those consequences. If that makes sense. Like, yeah, we want single family homes, because we don't want big apartment complexes. But it's like now you just shut out duplexes and quadplexes and all kinds of.
I mean, they do still say that those type of places and those type of things would bring people that would ruin the character of the neighborhood.
Fair point.
So
Fair point. All right.
even if you go to like California, which is just like, chill, man, like ruining my vibes, bro. And nope, still Berkeley, still San Francisco, like,
because a lot of times even the most progressive people who are well off still, and that comes again back to a classist thing, and you just
right.
assume, but you're like I am a progressive, open-minded, upper middle class individual, and I want to be surrounded by progressive, open-minded, upper class individuals.
yeah, and we believe in fair and equal housing, and everybody deserves to have the American dream.
Over
Just
there.
over somewhere there. You see that spot that I'm pointing to in that direction?
Yep. Go over there and find your equal housing.
Right.
I've got mine right here.
I'm sure it's
set.
going to be there. We're telling the people to build it there.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know why nobody is doing it.
So that said, we have to give some credit. Some zoning is not bad.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, not everything can ever possibly be horrible and or like specifically designed to hurt a specific group of people. Not to say that a lot of it isn't, but every once in a while, a blind squirrel does find a nut.
This is true.
And what kind of nuts have we found here?
Well, I mean, obviously, a lot of foreign countries that don't have any zoning laws don't have the safest neighborhoods in terms of structures that people live and work in. When you have people who don't know what they're doing electrical work and plumbing.
Would you say there's any first world Western countries that have any issues like that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we do. But zoning laws do give specific building standards that can increase safety, increase clean water.
The NEC has hugely helped in reducing home fires. I think incredibly electrical codes, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So there is some things, they help with environmental things, making sure the drainage is done properly, so you're not, running toxic runoff. Hopefully, I mean, we still do a lot of that, but reduces the environmental impacts. Making sure that they don't set up
I don't know. This
a
just sounds
tire
like
factory in your suburban neighborhood or
this
something.
just sounds like
that.
the heavy hand of government, man.
It is,
Everything
absolutely.
you're describing right now is reducing the
Socialism.
free market ability to thrive and prosper.
Socialism.
Socialism. Yeah.
Social liberal communism.
Right. Don't forget the neo.
Neo, yeah. So I mean there is definitely a place for some zoning, but
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, I think every major country that has a successful housing market that is not as bad as the United States, they've figured out how to zone.
Yep.
And we just don't seem to care. I don't. It's like it.
Well, it's not sexy, right? Like zoning,
True.
zoning isn't sexy, and this is how a lot of these things get passed, is because you get a few people with a lot of passion about being douchebags.
Right. The negative side of things is usually easier to latch onto when you disguise it with racism.
Yep. Exactly. And so these people, they get on the planning commissions and stuff, and they write these stupid laws.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to take their Thursday night at 7 p.m. to go to a planning commission meeting and,
That does seem not like something I'd like to do.
No, it's not. It's not fun. Believe me, I'm doing it now and it's not fun.
It sounds like going to like the DMV on purpose, like on a semi-weekly basis.
Yeah, exactly. And then a lot of times too, which makes it prohibitive for citizens to get involved, is counties, especially rural counties, are big.
Right.
Pine County is the third biggest county in the state. Chisago County is big. From my house, which is my house that I rent out, which is the northwest corner of the county, to the seat of the county in Center City, is like a 45-minute drive.
Yeah, that's it's not as bad as people trying to vote in like the 1800s. Bad, but still not very convenient for a modern household if you have any kids, if you have dogs or whatever, and you're
especially we got two working,
exactly.
couples and everything like that. And again, people are tired and they don't want to read through big, long, extensive. Like, have you read zoning requirements? Because now I've been flipping through them. They are just pages upon pages of dumbly written shit.
Well, yeah, it's all legalese, right? And that makes for some pretty dry reading.
And so it's like you usually don't find out about these things until you've already violated them most of the time.
Most of the time.
And so it makes them really easy for the people who do really care, and they usually really care for the wrong reasons. Makes them really easy to get these things passed. And and then nobody, like, if it doesn't affect you enough to really affect your life, nobody goes and fights them, right? Or you have one crabby, angry neighbor that goes and fights it, and everybody looks at them like they're the crazy person because they're like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Just pay your permit fee or whatever, you know what I mean? So
about the squeak wheel, guess the grease, right?
Yep. Well, that's what I'm working on at the moment. I am going to actually try to get this zoning law changed because I have, the following I do. It's built of many different people.
Yeah.
Somebody who does this for a living writes zoning and planning legislation. They have a
firm or
a firm that does it. They used to work for a place in North Dakota, and now she's got her own firm in Florida now. And she's like, I want to write an amendment to this zoning law. And she's like, anybody can submit an amendment. So
yeah, sure.
I'm gonna write that up and send that in. So like that's cool. So that's which I guess brings us to our next topic is how do we fix harmful, classist, racist zoning regulations while making sure our communities remain safe and comfortable. And comfortable is a italicized word.
I don't see it. I don't see it italicized here. Actually.
I'm not that good at using the software. All right, like you said,
you grew up. You're 2 years older than me, and they didn't teach you how to use Word back then.
Oh, they did. I've since forgotten because I haven't used it since then.
That's fair.
Yeah, I used Word last in college. I'm pretty sure I barely even used it when I had like an office job. So, if you were going to start trying to address zoning problems in your neighborhood, what would you be doing?
I honestly don't really know. Like I don't know.
Right, and that's an issue. I mean, educating. I know because when I brought up this topic, you were like, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I was like, obviously, like zoning is historically been very detrimental to the Black community and minority communities around the country, and we have a storied history of making that the case on purpose, and it still affects. It's kind of like a feedback loop that still affects and is a big reason why we have so many issues in our country today. But I was concerned that that we could fit that particular large scope of a topic into under an hour.
Yeah.
But in I like to do a lot of research, at least like multiple hours, if not like 8 hours ish per episode of research, and there was not a single video on YouTube that was like, hey, like this is how you can help. It was like, this is what we can do on a macro scale. Where it's like, okay, so somebody's going to be doing that, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah. That sounds like a good problem for somebody else to tackle.
Right? I don't know, somebody who knows how to do it and has some sort of power to do so.
And that's I think the point is a lot of this stuff, it gets passed, and then getting it changed is difficult because it's not sexy. It's not easy to rally, a group of support behind it.
Yeah.
But it can be done. Obviously, they're doing it in Minneapolis right now with the 2040 plan, getting rid of single family zoning laws. So,
gosh, yeah, you say 2040. I feel like that's so far in the future, but it's not.
It's not that far in the future. And yeah, when you're talking about changing, decades of zoning laws, because that's part of the problem. And something that the Biden administration is trying to work on.
Yeah, that's one thing I saw, and I got to give kudos where it's due. Biden specifically calling out the racist redlining practices of our country's past and signing an executive order to federal agencies to try to remedy that.
Yep. And not only that, giving $300 million in local housing policy grants to help local governments change these, because a lot of times you can't just be like, all right, we're just erasing that off the books. Like these things,
how are you gonna what's it gonna be once you take it out, right?
And a lot of these zoning policies are built on and under other zoning policies.
Sure.
So all of these need to be restructured. So that's another obstacle. But obviously on a macro scale and getting this done from a federal level, focusing on fixing those zoning policies and giving the community support that they need to fix those zoning policies is a big step. I really like what you're talking about with Japan, like just making a federally mandated zoning thing and taking it away from.
Well, that's right. When you said like $300 million, I'm like, oh, that sounds pretty great. Like, wow, that's awesome. Why doesn't Joe Biden take that $300 million, create a commission to make like a template, and then be like, hey, all you municipalities out there, like,
you get to pick one of these.
You get to use this. Like, you can use this. It should be inclusive to like a certain city size, and obviously you can adjust it as needed. And maybe they don't use that full dollar amount and just for the studies and the firms to create those laws. But like, I don't know, like why give just a check to people to like make it up on their own, when you have probably, the most powerful government in the world that could hire some people who know what they're talking about to make something that's shown to be
effective.
Like that takes like studies into consideration, and like what other countries have been doing into consideration, and like experts in those fields, and just like create a conglomeration of knowledge and expertise, and then be like, this is my present to you. Merry Christmas.
And that's a great point too, because how many of these localities are run by, suburban middle-aged dads who have or moms who have no clue about how zoning policies work.
I'm sure that the people that are leading your county councils or however it is, they didn't, take office and were like, I'm really glad we have these zoning laws. Like, this is my jam, and I'm fully supportive of this. No, they were probably like, okay, this is what it is.
Yep.
And
somebody else came up with this. They were probably smarter than me, so we'll just stick with it.
Right.
Which is a lot of times what happens.
Yeah, and if nobody has a problem with it at the time, and nobody voices their concern, and it's not a squeaky enough wheel, then why
If it ain't
change?
broke, don't fix it.
Right.
Even though it might be broke,
Oh,
but
yeah,
you know,
totally broken. You're just not seeing the effects of that.
and it's a lot easier to just ignore a problem if it's not
yeah.
directly being a thorn in your side,
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
address it. So, and then again, these people may want to address it but not know how because
Right. How are they going to spend their county funds to like pay for a firm to do case studies on their specific areas? Like, okay, so now they have a federal grant to do that, possibly. But how long does it take them to take those studies and make changes? And then how long does it take to get those changes passed, if ever?
Yep.
You know,
Absolutely.
if you have like a wide, policy based approach and like strategy that starts from a level that is very high up in a government that has a lot of support from the top down, obviously nobody's going to like shove it in your face, or they shouldn't shove it down and any particular locality's like throats. You have to do this, but like,
I mean, I do think that there should be
well,
more
I do think there should be a little bit of
more hard guardrails anyway. Like these are the outside parameters of what you're allowed to work within,
Right,
and then you
yeah.
can make some adjustments within those. But we're taking away
like we do
only
with everything else.
yeah only X amount of a area can be zoned single family, like 15% or 20% or whatever
Yeah.
can be zoned single family only. And you set those hard guidelines, and it's like, hey, here's templates about how you can do, and you can modify these then to fit your specific needs in that area.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I think that I think you're absolutely right.
Which I mean, I hate to shit on Joe Biden's thing. Like that sounds good, and like I appreciate that he's trying and saying the things that need to be said, because if they're not even said by somebody, then it's never going to change. So like the first step is identifying that there's a thing that happened, and that's what he's doing. He's bringing it to the national stage. So like it's important, it's good, but
can be a lot more.
this is where like the rubber meets the road talk, right? That's why we're here, and it's like, well, what can we actually do that's not just throwing money at a problem? Because Bill Gates throws a lot of money around, and what do you know? The world isn't all that much better because Bill Gates has thrown money around.
That's a whole different topic. We could do an episode on that, though.
We absolutely should do a topic.
Philanthropy,
Philanthropy
yeah.
is well, it kind of goes along with the all welfare is corporate welfare topic, but philanthropy specifically, I think, would be a good topic.
I agree. But this I think you're talking about, just Joe Biden paying lip service and writing maybe a check to kind of help.
Right. I mean, you wonder why people like are turning away from the Democratic Party, and it's because we've done nothing but pay lip service for the past 50 years.
Yeah. Yeah, since pretty much before Nixon, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've really had a generationally like changing candidate or president. You could say that Jimmy Carter was in his own way.
So Jimmy Carter was up there. Obama just, because obviously first African American president.
Yeah, I mean,
But I mean, he's very.
I just don't think that he did like that much generationally changing work.
No.
Not like somebody like LBJ, who like probably is not like the greatest person ever.
He's not a good person.
But like a lot of stuff changed during his time, and it's not to say that like he was like the champion of everything that happened, but it did happen while he was there, and a lot of great stuff that was riding off of the wave of FDR. So
yeah, absolutely, yeah. No, I agree. But back to that lip service and writing the bill. I think one of the things people can do, and what we're trying to do right here, right now, is educating people on zoning, on their local zoning, encouraging them to educate themselves and be aware of it, because it's one of those things that, again, I had no idea about this zoning issue that I'm dealing with right now. Right. Being aware that these things exist, how they affect you, how they affect your community, how they affect your community's future is, you can't address a problem you don't know is there, or you don't know how it works.
We're educating all 100 people who listen to this.
Absolutely. You know what? You got to start somewhere. Yeah. All right. Tell your friends to listen to us. Also about the zoning stuff, but tell them to listen to us too. Yeah. We need you to listen to us.
We're obviously so smart. We know all the stuffs.
Just two people with no qualifications about anything we're talking about.
Drinking some Busch Lights.
you should really tell more people to listen to us.
That's for sure.
But what I found out was cool through this experience is that anybody can submit amendment proposals.
Right. That's interesting. I've never considered that myself.
So if you don't like a zoning law, you can write up your own. And granted, again, we talk about all the legal jargon, and it's probably not the easiest thing in the world. No. And thankfully, I have somebody doing this for me that does this professionally. But you could get a group if you had enough neighbors together. I'm sure that these firms out there would work with people reasonably. Like, hey, we want to address these ordinances. What would it cost?
Yeah, and I'm sure there's
pool?
advocacy groups out there, which the fact that we need to have so many advocacy groups and the number of advocacy groups directly is related to how fucked up our country is.
Right.
But I'm sure there's somebody out there who would be interested in your plight and would be willing to help out, hopefully at a discounted rate for a good cause.
Absolutely. So, and there's nothing saying you can go write something, and even if it's not written, great. If you submit it and the commission's like, oh, yeah, this makes sense, and they can go amend your amendment.
Right. They can take the heart, the soul of your effort and try to formulate something that that makes sense.
And that doesn't cost you anything if you do it yourself. It might cost you a little bit if you pay somebody else to do it. But it doesn't hurt anything to put those out there.
No.
It brings people at least awareness.
It might hurt your sanity, but...
yeah, probably.
But no, it doesn't necessarily cost you much.
So like that's an option. If you see stuff that you just think are just egregious or ridiculous zoning laws that make people's lives, less livable, write to your council.
Yeah, I mean, I think, especially these days, I do think that local elected positions and those local city council people, I think they do pay attention. And I don't know if it's more or less than it was before I started noticing about them existing.
But I mean, they're people in your communities in these cases.
Exactly. I know my dad is a mayor of a very, very small town in Minnesota. It's like a couple hundred people. So like it's
big
not
time.
Yeah, exactly. But he knows a lot of people and they come to him with all the little stuff that you can imagine. And, he takes the time to listen. Yeah. I would hope that most city council type people are willing to take that time for their constituents. I would think that most of them probably are, at least enough to respond to an email or, make some phone calls. Like,
absolutely.
There's people who care if you show them that you care and you care to have them help you.
Of course. And again, you can go to these meetings, and I know they're usually at shitty times in the middle of the week, late at night.
Well, who wants to go on a Saturday? So,
right. Yeah, that is true.
That's fair. I mean,
but you can go to these meetings, and you can speak on whatever you want to speak about. You can get your time. If there's an issue coming up, you can speak and just give your opinion. It doesn't mean it's going to change anything, but it brings awareness.
Yeah.
And then that's entered into the record, public record as minutes, so it's shown that this is something somebody's brought to their attention. And that can be built upon too.
Right. I mean, you look at like somebody like Walter Masterson, who's kind of made like a career on social media by showing up in these meetings and blending in.
Yep, exactly. And you can do that. And I think that is, important. It's always the answer. Get more involved, run for commission, which is also obviously something else you can do.
Yeah,
you can support people for campaigns. And that's always our answer. And, none of us want to do it. We're not doing it at the moment. So
that's true.
You're more motivated, I think, to do it than I am.
I am, but we just had our local elections last in 2022, and I didn't even really think about it at the time, but I was like, as soon as it was happening, I was like, oh geez, I don't know, that could have been interesting to even take a look at what that would look like.
So, but if you have the time and the energy and the passion, get involved. And you can always, you don't even have to be the person running. You can find somebody who you think represents the change you want to see, and you can support them too. You just
absolutely
share some flyers, knock on some doors, donate some money. There's all kinds of options there.
Yeah, I mean the House representative for my district is Ilhan Omar, and I was like, I think that she's doing some really great work. I would never run against her, at least as it stands right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you don't have to be the person who runs.
There's lots of people more qualified than you to do just about everything. Not you specifically, but in general.
Oh yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of people way more qualified than me to do just about
absolutely.
everything.
I'm sure there is.
No matter how qualified you are, you're usually not the peak of your field. That's obviously selected for a very, very select few. But if
But
there
you
is,
don't have to be the best.
No, you don't.
You just have to be. You just have to be faster than the slowest person when the bear's chasing you, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But you can give moral support to the person running away from the bear that you want to get away from the bear.
Wave some Jack Links, try to distract the bear, something like that.
There's options you can do to be involved without being the head of the head of the snake, so to speak. So
absolutely.
Yeah, getting involved, doing that kind of stuff, voting in your local, a lot of these things come up for referendums and whatnot. Just paying attention to that stuff and voting on it is important, and it's going to make it easier for you to buy a house if we can get this stuff through.
Right. I mean, if we're not going to build more houses, which it seems like we're really not going to be building like a slew, like hundreds of thousands of single family homes in the next decade or like couple of years, then we need to change some zoning laws so that we can build duplexes and multiplexes that are in places that that are needed. So
make it affordable and make it less discriminatory for both just class and race.
Right. And make it smarter. Like if you do use zoning, like instead of having a Target be your only source of food and like your retail, like you could have a local like mom and pop grocery store or something that's a little bit closer that doesn't take 15 minutes to wait in the self-checkout line because there's 2 people on the checkout lines now.
Which is a great point. These zoning laws make it a lot more difficult for people to start small businesses in the community, and that hurts the economy. That hurts your local economy. That hurts your local community. Small businesses, everybody's willing to say it. Small businesses are the backbone and the foundation of America and of the community, and we do everything we can do to fuck them over. It is hard to start a business anywhere at any time, and it's harder when you got to deal with zoning laws.
Right. In Germany, I was hearing that they like make it specifically very easy for people to start a small business in the home or convert a home to an office or whatever. Like it's like thought of as like just like as easy as breathing as to like, oh, it totally makes sense that somebody would want a small business right here for this specific reason. Like, but we don't have that in America.
No.
It's really difficult to get like a salon to be created in what was a home or like in getting those conversion permits is like it's incredibly costly and it's confusing as all heck.
It really is. It is like my dad's a small business owner. I don't know if I'd call myself a small business owner, but like
entrepreneur.
There we go. I like that. But and I've tried to go more quote unquote legitimate and stuff, and like it's like the hoops you have to jump through just so I can pay the government more taxes. Just it's a lot. It's a lot.
I always knew you had mob ties.
Oh yeah. My grandpa's on my mom's side maiden name is Denio, and I always thought it was Italian. It's not.
There were other mobs, not just the Italian.
It's French
mob.
Canadian. I don't know if the French Canadian mobs out there doing much.
Hey, don't go to French Quebec. They might fuck you up for saying shit like that.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not.
We do have some listeners in Canada. We love you.
Oh, we absolutely do.
You're doing a pretty good job, though you have a lot of the same issues that America has today. But
just usually not as bad.
Yeah, usually not to the same extent.
Just like you're like America's issues light. Like at least you still have universal health care. You don't have free college tuition, but it's like a fraction of the cost of our college tuition. Yeah. You got the Looney Tunes who are protesting with their semi trucks for some reason.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much normal now, I guess, for North America.
Yeah, I don't know. You don't hear about it in Mexico so much.
No, you don't.
I don't know, but yeah, just getting involved. Again, if you want to start a small business too, these zoning laws, reforming these zoning laws can be helpful in that. And if you just want other people to start small businesses, so you don't have, like in Pine City here, Walmart is our option for everything. We do have a local hardware store, which is cool. It's existed forever. But we don't have a grocery store except for Walmart. We don't have a place to shop for anything, like clothes or electronics or anything else. We've got we still have a Radio Shack.
What?
We still have a Radio Shack here.
I kind of want to go there.
We can. I'll take you to. It's just around the corner.
I don't actually want to go, but I kind of want to go. I just want to drive past it.
Yeah,
see that it's real.
It still exists. But like we don't have a ton of other options.
Yeah.
Here.
Well, and you wonder why people are leaving small towns is because what kind of jobs are we looking at? We're looking at minimum wage, Walmart, or working at a shop.
Or you're looking at labor jobs, which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with labor jobs, but it's not something that everybody can do. And it's not something that people want to do forever because it beats the shit out of your body,
And who likes digging ditches in the middle of the winter in Minnesota to put in carbon fiber lines?
No, exactly. I mean, like my dad's small business, excavating company, and it's been a struggle. Like it's always a struggle. And he's 58 and can barely walk sometimes because his back's going out and everything. Sure. Like it's nobody wants. There's a reason I don't do it. I'm not taking over the family, but there's lots of reasons I'm not taking over the family business. But not wanting to kick the shit out of myself forever, and not wanting to deal with the stress of having to put up with all of the obstacles that are put in place, many by zoning, on both sides, to run the business, and then all the work you do has to go through all these zoning hoops and jump through all these zoning hoops. So I think we've beat this one to death.
A little bit.
But
we could easily spend another hour talking about zoning and redlining. I think we might do a specifically Minnesota historical, Minneapolis historical episode on redlining, because I think there is a bit of a history here that is at least
a little obscure. I didn't know about it until
recently, right, and it's Minnesota's not alone, and Minneapolis is not alone in a lot of the stuff that happened, but if you bring it home for people, I think people can look at I-35 a little bit differently,
No, absolutely. No, I think that'd be a great one to talk about.
But yeah,
well, on this one,
we thank you guys for joining us today, and we hope you were moderately entertained at least.
Yeah, on the most boring subject in the history of the world. We could have read to you from the dictionary, but we decided to go with zoning instead.
Yeah, maybe next time we'll start for A, and we'll see how far we can get it in an hour. Maybe to B.
Anyway, once again, we appreciate y'all watching. We have merchandise up on my website, offjoewagon.com. So please go check that out. We are on TikTok. I have not been great about updating little clips from these episodes, but we are on there. I know. We are on there. Please go follow us there. We have an Instagram page now, thanks to Addie, Taylor's wife, who is our behind the scenes person who does tons for us.
She's the best.
She is awesome. Anyway, we've got all of this stuff, so go follow us there. Please subscribe. Buy merch. Send us money to tell us you appreciate us doing this, because it's costing us money. And we love you. We really do appreciate you guys just watching, even if you can't financially support. We totally understand that.
Just leave a comment.
Let us know what you want to hear about.
I love reading the comments and all the people that are like, yeah, this is great. Keep it up.
Oh, we really do appreciate you guys. So, once again, love you guys. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you again next week on the Let Them Eat Toast podcast.